Over a dozen states are calling this danger a public health crisis, not the opioid epidemic or our country's issues with obesity, but instead it's this issue. Arizona has officially declared pornography a public health crisis, and it's not alone. 14 other states have passed similar measures saying porn is addictive and linked to violence against women and the hypersexualization of teens. These states aren't banning porn, but are aiming to raise awareness about its public health threat. But is porn really a health crisis on the same level as the opioid or obesity epidemic? Is porn a health crisis? Is porn addiction real? Joining us now is clinical sexologist Dr. Robert Weiss. Dr. Weiss, thanks for being here. You say porn addiction, although controversial, is very real. Why?
Well, absolutely, porn addiction exists. It falls under a larger category of issues like sexual addiction or compulsive sexual behavior. And I've been treating this stuff for decades. I've written a book. In fact, I wrote Sex Addiction 101. Now I'm writing Porn Addiction 101, and I feel like I'm revisiting old issues in a digital age.
And Dr. Judy, you obviously deal with these issues a lot in your clinical practice. What are your thoughts when we say porn addiction is real?
Well, what we know is that the research is still somewhat in its infancy. So we know that there are people who struggle with some of the symptoms, but does that really constitute a clinical condition that's diagnosable? And that's where we're having challenges in our research. We don't have robust research that shows that it's like an addiction process in a physiological fashion. It's not strong enough. So things like developing tolerance and withdrawal, that's sometimes what we discuss as what constitutes an addiction. We do have that for other process addictions, though, like gambling disorder. And so this is a reason why porn addiction or internet or sexual addiction is not yet in the DSM. It's not even in the section for conditions for further study.
So you're speaking about addiction from the perspective of, is this a pathologic addiction? And for people who don't understand, when we talk about DSM, you're talking about an official diagnosis, whereas a medical provider, you could say this, this is an official diagnosis that I can make that is backed up in the literature. Dr. Weiss, back to you. I'm assuming that you two disagree a little bit on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, a woman named Dr. Valerie Voon at Oxford looked at the brains of people who said they were porn addicted and people who said they just enjoyed porn. And you can absolutely see the differences in the way their brains light up. The people who have a porn addiction are struggling with decision-making and discomfort, and they're just in a whole different place. I mean, we can see it in the brain. And
here's part of the problem with that. I am very aware of Dr. Voon's research, and I'm so glad that there's more research in this area because we need it. That's how we can move from a place of infancy to robust research. But here's the issue with Dr. Voon's research, and she actually says it herself. There are limitations. There are only 19 subjects, and they were self-identified as having a porn addiction. And at the time, there was no criteria, no set criteria for how to measure, again, because we don't have the diagnosis, what compulsive sexual behavior is. And at the same time, there was a very small sample size, very small age range restriction. It's not a causality study because it's cross-sectional. And the methodology was only applied in a very specific brain region rather than looking at the whole brain. And so there's a lot of different ways to interpret the data that we have. And we have a few other studies like this that are small samples, again, with just heterosexual males that are on the younger side, usually between the ages of 20 to 30. We just need to know more before we can definitively say this, because what if it's coming from other things? Like this is a symptom of an underlying thing like clinical depression or anxiety, and that's how they're coping. What if it's actually related to a paraphilia, like pedophilia?
But you can say that about so many compulsive behaviors, whether you're addicted to gambling. You just have to place a bet, a wager on something, or shopping addiction, or gaming addiction. I mean,
drug or alcohol addiction, where people have they have a mental health problem and they turn to these addictions.